Hey folks, I'm Todd Jones. I'm the host of the podcast Press Box Access. Check out this clip from my conversation with Charles Pierce. Pierce gives us insight into Tom Brady, who he wrote a book about before the great quarterback became a brand. Well, let's go from there. Because you did break nationally and you end up writing for everybody. ESPN's Grantland, New York Times Magazine, Sports Illustrated, Los Angeles Times Magazine, on and on and on. And you wrote books. And one of the books that you wrote was Moving the Chains, Tom Brady in the Pursuit of Everything. And I'm just really curious about this book. I enjoyed it when it came out. It came out when Brady was still pretty young. He was like 28, kind of
Yeah, he
in
was.
the
It was.
prime.
It
He had,
was. I caught him at the moment immediately before he became Tom Brady brand name.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm
I
really
mean, and
curious about. So, as a
that I
writer, at that time, as a writer, what was Brady like? How did you get inside with him? Um, and then, of course, later when you become a brand, you're not doing that. What was it like to deal with Brady at that
well,
time?
he was. I mean, he was an interesting guy, uh, and he remains an interesting guy to me. Although there's certain elements of the empire, the you know empire that I find just a little bit weird. But yeah,
Mystifying.
he spent 6 months trying to decide whether he was going to cooperate with the project, and then told me he wasn't going to. However, he let everybody else in his life up to that point talk to me. His parents, his coaches, his his athletic counselor at Michigan, uh, Lloyd Carr, everybody in his life. He could have stopped the whole thing and didn't do it. And I think he did that because he was curious as to how this was going to all play out. And I found that approach, very, very fascinating. I had one 25-minute sit down with him, and that was only because Sports Illustrated had named him Sportsman of the year I was following him around.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and you
yeah.
wrote the cover piece for
And,
that. Yeah,
and
2005.
so I got the book. I did the book, and it came out, and obviously I made sure he got a copy. And sometime about 4 or 5 months after it came out, I got I, I heard this loud kind of thump as the mail came through the door, and I got a 4-page handwritten letter from him thanking me for the book and talking about
Really?
how it did bring up some painful memories, and he it brought up some stuff he tried very hard to forget about his time at Michigan and so forth, but he was grateful for me to do it. And the rest is history. So I think watching him gingerly approach the status that he eventually achieved was a good time in his life for an extended examination of who he was, because
Hmm.
all of the temptations were suddenly there. And by and large,
Why do you think he thanked you?
I think he thanked me because he sincerely enjoyed the project. And uh, I think I think he by and large he probably liked the way he came off in the book. But I think he really respected the work. And and I, God knows, I respect anybody who still writes longhand. Uh, but yeah, I mean, and obviously, since then, we haven't exactly, we've, I want to say, grown apart, because that sounds like he was my prom date, but we just haven't had any reason to connect. So
Well, I think he respected the work because he respected the work. And what I mean by that is he did the work that he has to do his job to be great. So he sees somebody else doing the work. Uh, and whatever whatever. If you're a writer and you're doing the work, he
Yeah,
sees
I
that.
think that.
Do you
I mean,
think
I'd
that's
like to
true?
think that was true, uh, and I like to think that that that's a very nice thought. I hadn't really dwelt on that, but it's entirely possible. He does think that way. Uh, he's very much aware of everything he had to do to get where he was. And I had this long conversation with uh, his quarterback coach, Tom, who had developed him from high school, and he talked about how you know Brady had just been an absolute beast on the drills over and over and over again. He put the dots on the ground to work on his footwork
Hmm.
and throwing next to a brick wall so he wouldn't throw sidearm because if he threw sidearms, he'd scrape his knuckles. So he'd throw overhand.
Hmm.
That's how he developed his
Wow.
motion. In fact, Tom gave me in a parking lot of a Denny's in California. Tom gave me a a uh, a brief lesson on how to throw a football. He said, he taught me the reverse C. You got to have the reverse C, and you got to throw it from behind your ear. And damn, if I didn't wing one at him, I was very impressed by this guy's ability to teach schmoes how to be quarterbacks.
Well, if he could
Hey,
teach a
that's
writer how to
exactly
throw a
right. That's the way I
football,
said.
when you think about Brady and the success he had, what drove him? Because most athletes or most people in general, if you get to a certain level of success, you get satisfied. We all like to be soft and comfortable. He didn't seem to ever find that
No, well,
spot. Why?
I honestly think the experience at Michigan marked him forever, where he he kept getting put off. He had the incredibly dumb experiment where he'd play the first quarter and Drew Hensen would play the second quarter, and whoever Lloyd Carr thought had done better would play the rest of the game, which was just bizarre. It just shouldn't have happened. But then again, they would never have recruited Drew Hensen without that deal. But Brady knew how much better than Henson he was. Everybody on the team knew that. He had, there was no question that Brady was the unanimous choice in that locker room if they had taken a vote. And I don't think he ever lost that particular chip on his shoulder. And I think he used it, quite obviously and quite admirably to become what he became.